Welcome to Tennis Spin, where we put our spin on your tennis. Guys, I'm going to go old school today. Somebody actually brought in something from my college days. Oh my God. I think my buddy Dennis used this racket because we were talking about it. Stay tuned. All right, guys. So I haven't seen one of these rackets in maybe a couple years. They come in maybe once a year, if that. It's pretty old. I'm talking about 20 plus years ago. Before I get going here, shout out to everybody who's bought me a coffee. Appreciate it so much. It keeps me going, keeps me awake. I only get like 4 hours of sleep a day, so I live off of coffee. For those of you who know me, I usually have a cup in my hand just like this. If you want to help me out and keep me awake, network is buymeacoffee.com/tennis spin. All right, thank you so much. Okay, so this racket actually brings back a few memories to me. Let me just quickly show you what it is. It's the Graphite II from Prince back in the day. I'm going to tell you a quick story here. My buddy Dennis, who we were both at City College of San Francisco, we used to hang out in the courts all the time. And it's been 20 plus years since we've seen each other. While I was doing these videos for the past 2 years, he found me. Like, we haven't connected, seen each other for over 20 years. And he kind of walked in one day on a Saturday. I looked up and I'm like, that looks like Dennis. And then I was busy, and then he waited for everybody to leave, and I looked at him and he looked at me and he's like, I've been watching your videos. I'm like, oh crap, dude, it's been over 20 years. So over the past year, we've reconnected. This racket was what he used, Graphite II. I've helped him into something else, which is a Dunlop CX200 OS, so Oversize. So that's kind of the modern day version of this. 107 square inches, great control. But this definitely brings back memories to, I don't want to say happier day, but kind of a more, I guess, happier day, But we're both grown men now, but we can only look at our rackets sometimes and say, man, that was a good time in our life, right? Shout out to Dennis. Thanks for hooking me up this whole year. I appreciate it. Okay. So as you can see, not a lot has been changed to this racket from 20 plus years ago. I wanted to show you the way it is because of the pink strings. Pink strings was actually a thing back in the day. So that's why I haven't cut this out yet, because in this state, you knew that it was 20 plus years ago because people were super into pink strings and yellow strings. That was a lot going on there. Black was not a thing back then. It was white, pink, and yellow were like the top 3 colors. Sometimes even purple. Remember, guys, purple? If you guys aren't of a certain age, you guys wouldn't understand. It's kind of a 80s, 90s kind of a thing. As you can see, the leather grip is still even on it. Probably the original leather grip, because it's got the Prince symbol there. But what I wanted to do though is kind of check the specs on this. I'm going to modernize this a little bit. I'm going to take Confidential and string this up and see how an old school racket would play with a modern string. Because back then, polyesters weren't really a thing either. But yeah, let's spec this out. All right, so I got my scale out. 333. What does that equal to in? So it's 11.7 ounces, guys. All right, let's see what it balances out to. It's out 315 there. All right, at the scale, checking out the swing weight here. 312. All right, so this is a 4 1/4, as you can see by that bottom. 4 1/4 is pretty rare in this racket. Usually, back in my day, 3/8 halves was probably the top seller back in this day, 4 1/2. I know it's hard to believe for some of you guys, but this quarter, I wonder if this belonged to a woman or a girl. But let's quickly take a look at the numbers here. So 333 in the weight. That's 11.7, guys. That's pretty heavy in today's standards. 9 points head light. It's about 9 points head light at 315. That's strong. Swing weight's 312. That's slightly on the higher side of what they are today. I don't know the flex though, but it is a lower powered frame. You can see it by this 22 millimeters in the beam. It is a 107. So at this point in history, they went from 110s to 107s. I think when Andre went away from Prince and they made him his racket at Donné, and then eventually over to Head, they made him a 107. Donné first and then Head second with the Radical. So this was there to kind of compete with that racket. So 16 by 19 on the string pattern. So as you can see, it's a pretty open string pattern. And back in this day, it was synthetic gut, right? A lot of Prince synthetic gut. Maybe the pros were using gut. That was kind of the only two things back in that time frame. This racket was basically around before Goo was born. So let's cut it out, guys. While I'm cutting this out and restringing it, we'll see you on the court. On the court, got my man, Coach Chris, with the Graphite 2. All right, Coach Chris. I think this racket was around when you were just born.
Oh, wow.
Do you recognize this racket?
No, I don't.
You don't? Maybe your dad might have. Your dad would probably know what this is for sure.
Yeah.
So, Graphite 2 Oversize. What'd you think, Coach?
So hitting with this racket actually comes close to hitting I was surprised how it felt like hitting with like a modern racket too as well. It feels a little heavier than normal, but it actually is quite responsive when I was hitting with it. It reminded me of like Coach JT's racket too back in the day, or his Prince's too, but this is probably a little bit of an older model. I thought I had plenty of control, and if Prince brought this back to kind of the current day, like definitely would play with one of these, or they're worthwhile playing.
So Coach Chris, did you notice the one word on here? Oversize.
Oh, oversize. Yeah.
So this puppy's
That
a
makes
107.
Yeah. Nice.
You notice the power in it a little bit?
A lot of power, definitely.
They did make it in a mid plus too, but this is the oversized version. I liked it actually. It brought me home. This was actually really easy to maneuver. Actually had a decent amount of control. You would think with an oversized racket that it would be straight power, but it wasn't. It was kind of like a Blade 104-ish, right? Got just enough flex, just enough power. When you hit it, it actually was pretty responsive. It actually stayed and dwelled on the string bed and the racket longer than you would expect. So, I mean, back in this day when wide bodies dominated, this was, I mean, one of the ones that kind of was at the forefront of both just enough power, but good amount of control on an oversized racket, right? So Coach Chris would actually play with it.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like a 107.
Right? He didn't know until I just told him.
Yeah, no idea.
So, all right. So I want to thank my man, Coach Chris here. Coach, where can we find you?
You can find me at CB Chan Tennis. That's it.
That's always it, guys.
That's it.
All right. Guys, that's the Graphite 2 Oversize that I just resurrected. Thank you for watching Tennis Spin, where we put our spin on your tennis.